Hi everybody, Phil the Issues Guy. Spoiler alert for all things The Boys up through Season 3, Episode 4. So we're back for another episode of The Boys, and Season 3 doesn't fall into the same traps of previous seasons. I feel like the world is constantly expanding and adding different layers to the emotions I'm feeling for individual characters. Maeve, Starlight, Butcher, Frenchie, Kimiko, Hughie, they all have these deep moments that I learn more about them as characters within this episode. This episode keeps the humor, keeps the over-the-top stuff that The Boys always keeps, but also, as I was mentioning last week, this season is expanding this universe a great deal and also just making me feel a lot more for these characters rather than just as vehicles for destruction and fun. There's so many moments in this episode that created more depth from an acting standpoint. From the passive characters that we see for a minute and might disappear at some point later, to our main characters that we've been following for several seasons. They all are given extra depth, or extra emotion behind what they're doing. Even Homelander, who I don't give a crap about, and I want to see all the horrible things happen to him. You at least sort of understand where he's coming from this season and why he's going in the direction he's going. I think there was a lot of foreshadowing in this episode for some horrible stuff happening for Homelander later on, or at least I hope, but we will see. So let's get into this episode, breaking it down, talking about a bunch of different things that happened. As I mentioned before, there will be lots of spoilers here. I won't get into too deep of specifics, but I will mention some of the things that happened in episode 4. Homelander is just a ticking time bomb. Yes, there are moments in this episode where he does explode or cause some trouble for somebody that we care about. But basically, he is just the ticking time bomb. As bad as he is right now, I feel like when you're watching the show, you see that he could go somewhere darker and deeper, and it's heading in that direction. Everything that's lining up in this particular episode is lining up that this is going to be Homelander's game. That this season, in some ways, is going to be seeing how bad and how far Homelander can push things into the direction that he wants. I love how we open right back up with the Star Search flashback. Again, as I was saying, this makes this world feel more lived in. Seeing things like we see the young kids last week, or the different groups of superheroes or supes in different areas, or even watching Hughie watch a newsreel about his relationship, all makes this feel like a more lived in world. has flashbacks dealing with the world of Soldier Boy and what he did to him, which makes a lot of sense at the end of this episode. He has a start similar to Hughie. I mean, I think each one of the boys has some uncomfortable beginnings in what leads them into the direction to want to battle these supes. But I think and Hughie have way more in common. Yes, Butcher does have some similarities with Hughie, with the fact that they both lost their partner, but I think in the way that they emotionalize things, that and Hughie have a little bit more of a connective tissue in the sense of what just driven them into this world, where I think, in my mind, and Butcher, even though he has a similar inciting event, I think he takes it a little bit more down the revenge path. And I think in some ways, Hughie's innocence is being pushed back and forth, or the battle for Hughie being a good person or turning more into someone like or turning more into someone like Butcher is constantly at battle in what's going on the show. And I feel like that is being explored exceptionally well in season 3, even just in the first 4 episodes. Hughie wants to take the V himself. Once he figures out what Butcher's doing, he doesn't want to just be a loser that's pushed around, and it makes a lot of sense. We do get a reveal at the end about him stealing it and taking it, and it's a really great reveal because I wasn't necessarily thinking about that. We never see an opportunity for him to do it throughout the episode, so it comes as a surprise at the end of the episode. The rationale that Hughie makes to go down that road just makes a lot of sense to me. But Hughie does call Butcher out for being a supe and how the gunpowder thing was handled. I love everything that they do with the Cameron Coleman character and interviewing Homelander and how that all gets exposed on screen. I think it's done really well and really accurate to what would happen with someone like Homelander. And Edgar's way of using the situation as a way to get Victoria Newman, his daughter, or his daughter like the head popper, to sort of go against Homelander is really genius, and it's pushing things down a certain level. And I think one thing that he does really well at making you feel very calm, especially the character of Edgar. Like, everything's happening according to plan. So when things go wrong for him or he's faced with different situations, it's interesting to think, is this all part of his plan? Does he want Homelander to take over and push everything into the ground? I almost thought Homelander was going to kill him in that scene and laser his face off when he was talking so much smack to him. But he didn't. He let him walk out of there. So he does, in some level, care about his endless pit of insecurity, as Edgar calls him out on. I love how Homelander doesn't want to kill him. He needs his approval. And he made the mistake of killing Elizabeth Shue's character a couple of seasons ago, and I think he still feels that. And what Edgar said to him in the sense of, you're going to regret this. Now you have no one else to make up for your mistakes, to make excuses for you, to be a buffer. And I think we're going to see that play out as the season goes on. I really love that stuff. Edgar using it as a way to kind of push Victoria against Homelander. And she even says it to him, we don't call out Homelander, it's not smart. Butcher meets Frenchie's other handler. It's a fun scene between the two Frenchie handlers. And you feel bad for Frenchie. They're almost giving him that adults are talking here feeling. And I feel bad for him. And I think it sets up a lot of what happens in the later half of the episode and him making his decisions to possibly leave and not fall into another trap of being someone else's tool. I do think what happens at the end of the episode will put a wrench in that, but I do enjoy seeing that interaction between the two people sort of interacting with themselves about Frenchie's fate and how they're going to use it. It's very manipulative and very harsh, but it really works really well. #Homelight, she tells Hughie what's going on, and the way Hughie reacts to it, the way he's dealing with everything is really hilarious. And again, this season continues to give us the most uncomfortable moments right away. They're not wasting any time. You want to see something awkward, they're going to give it to you first episode they can possibly give you this awkward feeling. And when Homelander walks into the room while they're talking and setting up a situation about maybe there's a plan to stop him, and his interaction with Hughie is hilarious. It's like Wayne Brady with Dave Chappelle. Give me your sandwich, Dave. He's like just pushing him like, give me your girlfriend. How is she? Is she a good fuck? Oh, is she this? Is she that? Just messing with him about what happened. Maeve is incredible. She can bend a steel pipe without using her hands. And Homelander, is she good in bed? Tell me what's going on, Hughie. And the way he's just messing with him all out without any ability to stop it. And it's very uncomfortable. It gives me an uncomfortable feeling watching the whole thing. And I think that's part of the feeling I'm having watching this particular season. At times in previous two seasons, you felt like Homelander could go off the rails, but you always knew you had, in season 1, you had Elizabeth Shue's character. Season 2, you had Edgar more. In this season, Homelander has no one to keep him in line. So it is just literally a ticking time bomb all season until he throws a temper tantrum because he is a petulant child walking around. And they make that very clear from scene to scene, the way he's enjoying everything. One of the things that I really hate that Homelander does is he'll say something really, really horrible, and then he says, just kidding. That's one of my least favorite things people do just in general in life. They say, I'm going to say this horrible thing to you. Oh, you smell like rotten bananas. You stink. You're an awful person. Just kidding. Just kidding. I hate that. To me, that comes across as someone that doesn't have enough security in themselves to say or do the horrible thing that they want to do, so they're testing the waters. And I think that's a perfect example of describing who Homelander is. In the tension build-up, about Homelander and when he's gonna pop is just perfectly done. Him writing on his cast, it just was hilarious. Homelander still cares for approval rating more than he cares about his agenda. The way they use A-Train's whole PR and agenda thing to do the commercial propaganda, it's just way too accurate to the way that they would really use that in real life. And I like how Ashley is also in some ways a ticking time bomb, and she is being completely directly affected by everything that Homelander does. Starlight wants to help Maeve, but Maeve wants to do it alone. She has a little bit more. Maeve lets it out that she's been working with Butcher, working with the boys. And I'm glad we got a little bit more Maeve. I feel like we got less of her in the first 3 episodes. And I like how we got a real scene with her. She's not drinking. She's training. She's setting herself up for success. I'm scared about the situation she's in because we see what the end for Supersonic is at the end of this episode. So who's to say that Maeve isn't next and that he's just going to go right after her as well? So I do feel a lot of tension and a lot of fear for Maeve's future, but I like what they're doing with the character in the limited interactions that we see her. And I think this scene with her and Starlight was really well done. I don't think both of them survive this season. I don't know which one it's going to be. I think maybe Starlight would make a little bit more sense for the Hughie arc, who is our main character, essentially. But I don't think Starlight and Maeve make it through this season. I think Homelander kills one of them. Everyone going on a trip again. Hughie dealing with the international embarrassment of it all is so perfect. Jack Quaid does awkward better than almost anybody. I love how everyone seems to have something to do this season. I feel like that was not a problem in season 2, but they're doing much better job in this season in equal distribution of storyline to all of the characters I actually care about. Butcher showing how he is equally a good man and a horrible person consistently this season, and consistently from the beginning of the show. I feel like Starlight is taking way too many risks telling her friend Supersonic. I kind of said in my notes watching the episode that I just didn't trust Supersonic. I didn't think it was going to go in the direction that it went, with that Homelander just kills him at the end and brings her up to see him. But I thought it was going to go the other way around. But once they told A-Train, that was a stupid mistake. Once Supersonic thought he could connect with another speedster and tell him about what was going on, I knew they were in trouble to a certain extent, but I still didn't think that this was going to be the conclusion of the episode. My immediate thought was that Supersonic was going to use this as an opportunity to connect himself with Homelander and use it as a way to sell Annie out. The deep eating and being a mouthpiece for his wife, the fight with A-Train. I said this last week and I'm going to say it again. The Deep is not the best part of the show, but he's consistently the funniest. Anytime he's in a scene, watching him be a colossal nightmare of a mess of a human is just incredibly fun to watch. The actor who, I must admit, I was a Gossip Girl watcher, and it's great to see Nate doing such an awesome show after doing something like, Gossip Girl's Gossip Girl, it's whatever it is. But seeing what he's doing after and the fact that he got on this show, he's the perfect actor for it, and he has a perfect sense of humor, and that soap opera vibe to him just works really well with the character. And thank you, The Deep, for being hilarious. Homelander's annoyance with A-Train for not being powerful, not wasting time, just being a normal human. Homelander dealing with Ashley, and I think the look on her face is, you go to a open bar situation with someone is a really bad, angry, awful drunk. Like one of your friends and I'm not talking about the amount that they drink. I mean that when they do drink, they turn into the biggest asshole at the party and they embarrass you and everybody else around you and end up getting kicked out or something like that. The look that Ashley gives through this whole situation is, don't people know who they're dealing with? Homelander is the kid. It's just a matter of time. He's going to explode, and it's going to be messy, and it's going to be horrible. He is a ticking bomb. Oh my goodness, stop it. And I just love the look on her face. I don't know any other way of saying this other to say, listen, is your idiot brain getting fucked by stupid? Deep and A-Train continue to have great interactions all series long. It's so fun. You're Austin Kutcher fucked by a clownfish. There's so many little one-liners. The script writing and dialogue of this show is consistently since the beginning been really entertaining, and I think they're just getting better at it with some of the insults or the back and forth dialogue that happens. Homelander helps the Deep and messes with A-Train. The way the camera follows him while he's talking to Supersonic was just really good filmmaking, good cinematography. A-Train talking crap about the Deep and being like, I'm eating guff from the Deep? Oh my goodness. The Deep's the lowest on the totem pole. I can't do that. And again, it sets up perfectly what happens later. Supersonic being an idiot, opening up his mouth. I like how MM is the only person that can really call out Butcher and tell him off and put him in his place. This sets up something at the end where Butcher turns to MM and says, no, we didn't bring you on the team because you have a certain set of skills that you're good at. We brought you on the team because you're a good leader and a good person. And if I wanted to have someone on the team that's going to care about the boys, it's you. You need to protect the team from me, even. And it comes in the end when MM says there's no more team to protect. Kimiko trying to walk in heels with the song, and the way that's cut is just very good editing. And then we cut into the scene with all the 7 sex toys and all of that. I just have to say, this scene with Kimiko killing everybody with sex toys was just one of the best edited scenes of the first 4 episodes. Just the timing of it was really well done with the music and the way it all mixed. Just, it almost came across to me a little bit like the Fifth Element opera scene in the way that sort of cut back and forth and the tight editing, the fight, and the way it all came together. It just worked really, really well for me. And the fact of how she ends it all with the dildo stabbed through the back. And I love how the sex toys come back later in the episode with Ashley. Edgar pushing Homelander is not going to end well for him. So Victoria does a swerve and ends up sending Edgar packing, needing to protect herself. And he likes it. And also we find out later it's so Homelander can give some V so she can give it to her daughter, which is really a horrifying scene at the end. We learn that Homelander is not just a psycho, he can manipulate a situation. He can understand. He understood what she wanted from him to go against it, gave her the V, Victoria, gave her the V, and was able to manipulate her against her surrogate father. Homelander taking over in that moment and turning to the rest of them and saying the dawn of the 7. Ashley taking out her anger on other people with Homelander when bringing out the Homelander strap-on. Kimiko, it has so many different colors to her performance. She can play happy, sad, emotional, being affected by it all, and then has that violent Wolverine click to her brain. The way she plays all those different emotions without words is really well done, and I have to give 100,000,000% credit to the actor that brings something out of this character that could be a one-note character, but it's definitely not. Her and Frenchie, they create some real energy and real emotion. I care about them. Victoria and Homelander, he continues with the kidding stuff. You want to pop my head? You want to destroy my head? Kidding. And I like how Homelander becomes the audience to us in this situation. Everyone after the first few episodes in last season, can she pop Homelander's head? And Homelander even says it. Can you pop my head? I'm kind of curious. Is it going to work? Which I do think is some sort of a foreshadow for maybe her trying that at some point in time and it possibly not working. Butcher may be addicted to the V, but we do see that Hughie wants some as well. Edgar and Homelander, he's proud of Victoria. They go back and forth, and I kept feeling like he was going to kill Edgar in this scene, but it doesn't go in that direction. Edgar says you will regret this, you're in charge, and everyone will know what a pathetic loser that you are. Vicky gives her daughter the V, and she wants it as that connective tissue between her and her daughter, but it's a really horrible scene. It's emotionally kind of difficult. The kid's screaming, and the kid does a really great job with the scream and the acting, and it's set up. It's a really messed up scene. So the mission is on. It looks really good. We get a Rocky IV comment, which is really awesome. As they look for the weapon, they spread out, they look around. We get a little hamster that is like a Teenage Mutant Ninja hamster, super hamster, that kills one of the guys. Kimiko hates violence, but she's so good at it. Butcher needs to use his powers at one point. The whole group gets blocked up against the wall. They're in a danger situation, so finally he has to come out and show that he has powers in front of all of his friends. It's a really amazing scene. He comes out, he goes, "Evening, cunts," and just sprays everyone. It's perfect with his vision. And then right at the end, it looks like MM is about to get attacked from behind, and there's no way to get to the attacker in time. Hughie's faster than his clothes. He zips out of his cast, goes there, saves MM, sticks his fist through the dude's chest, rips out his heart, and MM turns to him and goes, "Hughie, your dick is out." And just the way he says it, it's hilarious. The fact of Hughie being so proud of himself and not understanding why anyone would be upset with what he did, and everyone's upset with what he did, but it's just a hilarious moment that is really intense too and sets up incredible intensity. MM just can't handle it. And then we get to the big climactic moment of the episode. They think they found where the weapon is, or Butcher is looking around the place. We find something that looks like the Fly, like Jeff Goldblum, one of his chambers in the Fly. Opens it up and comes out Soldier Boy. He's actually still alive with a full beard. Looks like he's been drugged for years to kind of hold back his powers. He comes out of there, or he's been manipulated, as it's mentioned later that maybe he's being brainwashed of some sort. He comes out of there. He gets ready to go full Charizard on Frenchie, who walks up to him and says, "Hey, everything's okay." He tries the whole strategy he tried with Kimiko at one point in time. Like, "It's okay. It's okay. It's going to be okay." And then Kimiko stands right in front of him, takes the full blast for Frenchie, and then Soldier Boy walks off through there. So MM is all done. Kimiko looks dead by the end of this because she is not healing. They get in the car, they drive off. Frenchie's freaking out because Kimiko is not healing. MM is done, looks at Butcher, says the team is over. I can't protect the team. It is done. And that's the end. Everything looks so bleak for the boys right now. And I feel like we've looked bleak with the boys before, but it's always a verge of comedy on some level. This was very serious feeling, and I don't know if she's going to make it, but it did not look good at the end of the episode. So speaking of the end of the episode, we're back to an event with hashtag Homelight, and they're enjoying it. They're having fun. They're coming out, or I'm not sure Starlight's having fun, but they're doing their best in the press situation, smiling at the cameras. And Homelander says, "You know what? I'm taking you on a little flying ride. I'm going to fly you somewhere." And she's like, no. He's like, "Nope, you're coming with me." Picks her up, flies her up, which is almost a very funny sort of take on the Superman taking Lois on a flight to the rooftops. It almost seemed like the way it visually looked similar to that moment when Superman's taking Lois in Superman 1, in Richard Donner's Superman 1. So they're flying through, and they get up on the roof, and she looks down, and Alex Supersonic is dead, ripped apart, and A-Train busted them. And that's the end of our episode of The Boys. A very sort of tragic, horrible ending where it looks like Homelander is winning everything. Another really great episode of The Boys. I cannot wait for the next one to talk more and see more of Homelander losing his shit and seeing where this goes this season. I'm completely invested. I'm completely excited. And I can't wait to see where they go next. Because now, a lot of this first part of the season, it seemed like they were looking for some sort of weapon to battle Homelander. And it also seems like we had a bunch of Supes on the 7 gathering together to try to battle against him. And both of those things have hit brick walls. So where do they go next with this? One thing's for sure, I'll be back here next week to talk about it. Thank you, everybody. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. Click that bell for all notifications. Thank you, everybody. I'll talk to you next time.
Dude.